Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Raise a hand if you've ever watched the Dave Ramsey show. Raise a hand if you watched the Money Guy show. Raise a hand if you watched How to Get Rich on Netflix. Raise a hand if you've read any article on personal finance in the past week. Basically, I hope at this point everyone has their hand up because I hope you're watching some of these shows or reading some of the articles because I think they're all amazing. I think watching the financial content, listening to financial podcasts, and reading the articles will make you better with your money. And I think we should all be doing this because I think we all want to be better with our money. I think taking in financial content, whether that is through listening, reading, or watching, I think it allows the subject of money to permeate into other aspects of your life. I think watching a 10-minute video or reading a short article does more than just occupy a few brief moments of your time. I think it has a bigger impact on your life than you actually realize. My husband and I both love watching and listening to financial content. Perhaps it's a podcast, or maybe it's just a video here on YouTube or some other finance-related show. But I think this is the #1 way to open up the dialogue about finance. And I think it's something that pretty much everyone should be doing with their partner. And while you do it, keep that remote handy and keep your finger hovering above the pause button. Because this is how you start talking about money. You listen to these topics or these callers, and then you hit the pause button and you turn to your partner and you say, would you ever do that? Or what would you do if you were in that situation? Or what do you think of that account, that credit card, or simply that opinion? The downside of this is that it takes like 40 minutes to get through a 10-minute video, and I'm very guilty of this. And this is such a great way to get your partner's opinion in a very non-judgmental way, because it isn't about you or them or anything you're going through. It's about other people and their situation. But it can be really eye-opening. You learn how your partner would handle debt or major purchases or basically just their view on finances. You end up talking through so many what-if scenarios, you end up basically role-playing with finances. And naturally, this leads to you talking about your own finances, where you set boundaries with your finances, and what personal goals you may have. And especially if you're not someone who's comfortable talking about finances, or if you're with somebody who's not really comfortable talking about finances, talking about other people's situations can be a really disarming way to get into this subject. And over time, the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you get with talking about it. And listening to these videos and these podcasts can be a way to open the door or open the lines of communication in this area. Actually, one of my very best girlfriends, I was riding in her car early on when we knew each other, and when she turned it on, she was listening to Dave Ramsey, and my immediate thought was, this girl gets me. And that opened up the dialogue for us talking about finances. And to this day, 7 years later, we still talk about everything money related. Incomes, retirement savings, you name it. But it's nice to have a friend to talk about those kind of things with. You could even try watching this type of content with parents or children and see where the conversations lead you. I think it goes without saying that if you're constantly reading about finance or listening to a podcast or watching a video, inevitably you're going to learn something. And I think it's a really great attitude to always want to be learning and continuing to improve in an area. I'm always watching these kinds of videos or reading articles or reading new books, especially in the area of money, because it's a subject I love learning about. A lot of times you may watch a video and feel like, oh, I already knew that information. But inevitably, if you keep watching, you eventually learn something new. And even if you watch a video and you feel like you already knew that information, a lot of times I'll watch videos on, say, budgeting. I feel like I have a good grasp on budgeting, but I feel like it reminds me to stay the course. Because remember, when it comes to finances, it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And sometimes we do need that little reminder that, hey, you're on the right track. Just keep going. And so much of our financial education is really left up to us as individuals. I wish it was something that was taught in our school system, but sadly it just isn't. And a lot of us don't really learn about financial literacy until we become young adults, or for many, even older adults. It's really wonderful that there are so many free resources out there that you can really do a deep dive into personal finance or any area of finance that interests you. But at the end of the day, it's important to keep in mind that a lot of personal finance has to be done the DIY manner. Recently, there was a study that came out of the Ohio State University that helped to show that kids who used perspective shifting were better able to deal with difficult situations. In the study, the kids were split into two groups. The first were told to solve the problems on their own. The second was told that they have a creative friend who can help them solve the problem. And this taught perspective shifting and viewing things from other people's points of view. When you ask people to shift their perspective and imagine receiving advice from a friend, you get a lot more creative and effective solutions to problems than just trying to solve the problem yourself. And I know this study involved children, but I think the lessons can translate to adults. I think the exact same thing can happen when we hear about other people's financial issues. And I think the Dave Ramsey show is amazing for this. When you get to listen to the callers call in and talk about their financial situations, their spending habits, their budgets, I think it's very easy for us as outsiders to point out areas of improvement. As an outsider looking in, it can be easy or easier to identify mistakes and come up with solutions. Often when you're in the situation, when you're in the thick of it, it can be hard to see past the problems and really gain the perspective needed to come up with a solution. So much of finance comes down to common sense, like setting aside a portion of your paycheck for the future, living on less than you make, or paying off that credit card every single month, and things like that. But sometimes common sense gets a little bit lost when we're buried in our day-to-day life and our own individual problems. So I think the more you expose yourself to financial discussions and financial situations, the more you'll train your mind to come up with solutions. The more you'll find yourself saying, here's what I would do in that situation. And consequently, it'll be easier for you to come up with solutions to your own problems when they do arise. Sometimes we just need to shift our perspective. And I think a lot has to be said for hearing individual examples and hearing personal stories. I think they're more impactful than simply reading a book or reading an article. I think they teach a bigger lesson. The more financial situations you're exposed to, the better you get at handling your finances. When you're constantly hearing about different people, their spending habits, their budgets, their money conundrums, that's a way of exposing you to different situations. Hearing what others have done in terms of their successes or in terms of their mistakes allows you to learn from them without actually having to go through that situation. You can hear about someone with a mountain of credit card debt and say, I will never do that. Just as you can hear about someone who got stagnant in their career, but then one day made a pivot and doubled their income. And you can say, I will find a way to do that as well. You can better take a bird's eye view of your financial decisions, whether it's, should I buy this car or should I buy that house? Do I have enough to take that vacation? Should I dip into my emergency fund? It helps you to question your own behavior, to ask yourself the appropriate questions before you sign on the dotted line or swipe that credit card. The more you can think through your decisions before making them, the more educated you can be before making these decisions, the better decisions you will end up making. The more experience you gain, the more confident you'll feel with your money, and the more competence you'll have with personal finance. This type of content does more than just improve our finances, because I think when we get better with money, our lives improve and our relationships improve. I think if you're regularly watching personal financial content or somehow taking in financial content, I bet over time you'll notice your bank account balances start to improve. You'll start to hang out with people who have good financial habits. You and your spouse start to get on the same page with finances, and just generally you're making better money decisions. So please ensure that you're watching some type of financial show out there, whether it's for education, whether it's for entertainment, or whether it's for a sneaky way to open up the dialogue to finance with someone that you care about in life. And also list some of your favorite financial shows down below, because I'm always looking for new content to watch. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.